Donald Trump's epic fury at Iran. What does the new US military operation mean for the world and for Ukraine? About this and more right now. Hello friends, I'm Irina Prokofieva and this is TSN. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch the broadcast and be sure to comment on the materials that interest you most. Hit the like button and let's get started. A new war? The US and Israel have launched a military operation in the Middle East. After morning strikes on Tehran, Iran attacked American bases in the Persian Gulf countries and launched ballistic missile strikes on Israel. The military operations, called Epic Man or Lion's Roar, were described in Israel as the collapse of the Iranian repressive regime. Our correspondent Natalia Tkachuk has been following the events in the Middle East throughout the day. Details in her report.
The morning of February 28th, Israel launches its first strikes against Iran. The Israeli side later names the operation Lion's Roar. The US Department of Defense calls it Epic Fury.
The goal of the operation is to put an end to the threat posed by the Iranian regime. Together with the United States, we will strike hard against the terrorist regime. We will create conditions that will allow the brave Iranian people to rid themselves of the burden of this bloody regime.
According to Iranian media, about 30 targets across the country came under attack, in particular the president's residence and the intelligence headquarters. According to Reuters, the targets of the attack on Iran were Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and President Masoud Pezeshkian. But there are also civilian casualties.
Over the past few months, we have observed that the regime continues to advance. Offensive plans against the state, Israel. They are focused on restoring and accelerating the production of ballistic missiles, developing, strengthening and concealing the nuclear program, as well as further shaping and advancing the plan to destroy Israel. In response,
Tehran launched ballistic missiles and drones at Israel. Israeli hospitals moved patients to underground wards, and residents of Tel Aviv are posting videos from bomb shelters. People with children and pets calmly go down to the shelters and wait out the attacks. Everyone here knew this would happen, locals write on social media.
We are moving all our departments and services to protected areas. However, all medical services are being provided as usual, and we are ensuring the necessary assistance to citizens and residents of the country.
Later, Iran expanded the geography of its strikes, focusing on American bases in the countries of the Persian Gulf, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. People were evacuated from the Burj Khalifa. Airports in Dubai are being closed for an indefinite period. Global airlines are cancelling flights throughout the Middle East. US President Donald Trump stated that Operation Epic Man is aimed at protecting the American people and addressed the Iranians with the following words.
To the great and proud people of Iran, your hour of freedom has come. Stay at home because it is dangerous outside. Bombs will be falling everywhere. When we are finished, you will be able to take power into your own hands. This is probably your only chance in a generation.
In its official statement, the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed support for the people of Iran while at the same time condemning the Iranian repressive regime.
For many long decades now, the Iranian regime has systematically terrorized the entire surrounding region, actively supported and heavily financed international terrorism by militants who bring instability to other countries, and has consistently and brutally oppressed its very own citizens. That is exactly why we always stand firmly with the brave Iranian people, the people themselves. In this regard,
the ministry also recalled the armed support provided by the Iranian regime to Russia during its war against Ukraine. Strikes by thousands of Shaheds on peaceful Ukrainian cities and people as a result of the cooperation between the Putin and Iranian regimes. Meanwhile, in a statement from the Russian Foreign Ministry, the aggressor country condemned the United States and Israel specifically. They call the operation a premeditated and unprovoked act of armed aggression against a sovereign and independent state, which allegedly violates the fundamental principles and norms of international law. A new war in the Middle East could divert US attention away from Ukraine. Patriot missiles could once again become scarce, and now it depends on Europe whether Russia will seize the moment. At the very least, the new Dutch Minister of Defense promises to keep the focus on the war in Europe.
In the Netherlands, this will not change. And if I can somehow influence this in Europe, Support for Ukraine will also remain unchanged. It will continue because this is a war on our own continent. At the same time, we know that Iran has significant influence on events here, and I hope that this will not distract us from our struggle on our own continent.
How long the operation will last remains an open question, because in Israel they have assured that they will fight for as long as it takes. Natalia Tkachuk, TSN 1+1.
Meanwhile, an Iskander-M ballistic missile from the Voronezh region and 105 attack drones were launched last night at Ukraine from Russia. This was reported by the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. UAVs of the Shahed, Geran and Italmaz types were launched from Oryol, Bryansk, Kursk, Shatalovo, Primorsky, Oktyrka and Milerovo. From Russia as well as from temporarily occupied Donetsk and the village of Vardiska in Crimea. Our defenders neutralized 96 drones. At the same time, there were hits from 6 strike UAVs and debris fell in 7 locations. An 86-year-old woman was wounded in Zaporizhzhia. During the day, the Russians struck one of the villages with guided bombs. 3 bombs destroyed houses. A fire broke out. The blast wave damaged about a dozen households. All emergency services were working at the scene. In Sumy region, drones are increasingly targeting civilian vehicles. Today, a drone attacked a Ukrposhta vehicle in the Mykolaiv community. 2 people were injured, a local resident and the driver, an employee of the post office. He is in serious condition. The occupiers also hit a car with a drone in the Bilopilia community. The people managed to escape. The Russians attacked a railway station in Dnipropetrovsk region with drones. The locomotive engineer was injured. In Dnipro, as a result of the drone attack, 2 apartment buildings were damaged. Nikopol and Sinelnikivsky districts were also under attack. In the morning, the occupiers struck a gas station in Kramatorsk with drones. Preliminarily, it is known that 1 person was injured, and the day before in Donetsk region, 4 people were affected. 2 in Drushkivka, where the Russians struck with drones. 1 more each in Sviatohorivka and Sloviansk. Explosions in Kharkiv region were caused by Russian drones, but preliminarily there are no casualties. However, the day before in Verkhnya Rohanka, 5 people were injured by drones, 2 of them children. 2 more people were injured in Veliki Kutori and Iskra. 8 people were wounded in the Kherson region over the past day. 27 settlements came under attack. The Russians targeted critical and social infrastructure. They damaged 4 apartment buildings, 11 houses, the transport administration, minibuses, trolleybuses, and private cars. Ukraine is critically short of PAC-3 missiles for Patriot systems, but there is potential to independently produce its own anti-ballistic complexes. This was stated by Defense Minister Mykhailo Fedorov. He also reported on changes he made in the ministry to improve air defense protection. After each attack, the minister's team conducts an analysis to identify where there are weak points in the air defense and how to fix them. As a result, the last 2 massive Russian attacks had significantly fewer consequences. On February 26th, there were no hits and no destruction in the capital. On February 22nd, all ballistic missiles were shot down. The reduction in the effectiveness of Russian attacks is also aided by depriving them of communication through Starlink terminals. The creation of small-scale air defense and the destruction of the module network. Communications on the territory of Belarus, which helped coordinate drone attacks and contributed to the accuracy of Shaheds. This was reported by Fedorov. Also, according to him, there is currently a search for partners and opportunities to create domestic anti-ballistic systems. The enemy has advanced near Chasiv Yar in the Donetsk region. This information comes from analysts at the Deep State portal. At the same time, the Russians have not achieved any success in advancing in the Kharkiv region in general and in the Kupiansk sector in particular. This is reported by the Institute for the Study of War. Citing soldiers from the enemy group, analysts there report that the adversary allegedly lacks ammunition in those directions. Meanwhile, fighting continues in Kupiansk itself. The defense forces are trying to eliminate separate groups of the enemy in the city center. The Institute for the Study of War also analyzed the recent shelling of the village of Belenke, which borders the Lazurny district of Kramatorsk. From this city to the front line is no more than 15 kilometers. The Institute for the Study of War suggests that this may indicate preparations for a spring-summer offensive in Donetsk region. They also predict that this operation could last for years and cost the Kremlin heavy losses and resources. Russia may withdraw from negotiations if Ukraine does not cede part of Donetsk region. This is reported by Bloomberg, citing sources close to the Kremlin. The trilateral talks scheduled for next week between Ukraine, the US, and Russia are being called decisive for reaching a peace agreement. Russia is reportedly ready to sign a draft peace memorandum only on the condition that Ukrainian defense forces withdraw from Donetsk region. If an agreement on this is reached, a summit at the leaders' level may follow. In addition, the publication notes that Russia agrees to a ceasefire monitoring under the leadership of the Pentagon and is ready to abandon the demand to limit the Ukrainian army, but continues to reject the presence of foreign contingents. The last round of trilateral negotiations took place in Geneva. At that time, the parties worked in groups on the political and military blocs. The key issue then, and still now, remained the territorial question. A fire in Russia's Krasnodar region. At night, debris from a downed Ukrainian drone fell on an oil refinery there and set it on fire. This was reported by the local authorities of Stanitsa Novominskaya, where the refinery is located. What surprised researchers this autumn, who usually look for strike locations on the Federation's map. Currently, there is no video of the fire, however. A similar incident already happened a year ago when this same refinery was also hit. It is known that the fire engulfed a storage tank and the surrounding area, and it was only extinguished by early morning. It is also reported that the oil refinery partially halted operations due to the risk of new explosions. Ukrainian ballistics. The defense company Firepoint has published the first footage of the test flight of the FP7 missile. As its co-owners previously stated, this missile is something of a replacement for the American ATACMS missile systems that the United States supplied to Ukraine. But according to them, the FP7 is cheaper. The missile's maximum speed is about 1,500 meters per second, and its warhead weighs up to 150 kilograms. It is capable of flying a distance of no more than 300 kilometers, and the duration of such a flight is just over 4 minutes. Just a week ago, Firepoint announced that they are in the final stage of testing ballistic missiles. So soon, Ukrainian FP7s may be able to strike Russian military targets. The new Dutch government may increase its support for Ukraine. This was stated by the newly appointed Minister of Defense of the country. Her first official visit in office was to Kyiv, where she met with her counterpart, Minister of Defense Mykhailo Fedorov. The main focus of their discussion was potential future cooperation and joint production of drones. The minister even brought to Ukraine a scaled-down model of a drone that is manufactured in the Netherlands and tested in Ukraine. She spoke about this in an exclusive interview with TSN. She also noted that the new government will not only maintain support for Ukraine, but may even strengthen it. After all, the Netherlands is currently increasing its own defense spending as well.
For us, it was very important to show in the very first week that military support for Ukraine will continue. Could anything change? To be honest, it could, but in a positive way. The Netherlands is one of the first NATO countries to decide to invest 3.5% of its GDP by 2035 into its own defense, industry, and armed forces. For us, this is a very big and important step. I remember that not so long ago. Dutch society and politicians hardly paid any attention to defense. Funding was being cut. But now we are investing. We understand that on our continent we must support each other and be able to defend ourselves.
In Bolivia, near the capital La Paz, a military plane loaded with money crashed. At least 15 people were killed. Another 30 were. Friends, if money fell from the sky for you, what would you spend it on? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments to this broadcast on YouTube. Of course, give us a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, I will continue with the TSN broadcast. After March 1st, pensions will increase. They will be indexed by more than 12%. This exceeds the inflation rate, which was 8% for the past year, 2025. The government has made the corresponding decision. After recalculation, the pension will increase by at least 100 hryvnias, but no more than 2,595 hryvnias. The majority of pensioners will receive an increase. In particular, minimum payments for the most vulnerable categories will rise. Minimum pensions for persons with disabilities due to the war and for combatants will also be indexed, and for working pensioners, payments will be automatically recalculated starting from April 1st.
This will help support people during wartime and amid rising prices. The majority of pensioners will receive an increase, both civilians and military personnel, people with disabilities, combatants, those affected by the Chernobyl disaster, and other categories. The recalculation will take place automatically.
They chained the children, starved them, and forced them to do hard labor. 2 foster parents from a family-type children's home in Dnipro have been charged with torture. The investigation established that the couple abused children aged 3 to 10 whom they had taken into their care. They didn't call them by name but used obscene words for disobedience. They shaved them, beat them, and forced them to walk barefoot on stones. All of this went on for 5 years. At the same time, the social services that were supposed to monitor the conditions in the children's home did not find any violations. The cruel methods of care became known when the eldest foster child entered an educational institution and dared to talk about what he had experienced. The court placed the woman in custody, the man under round-the-clock house arrest, and the children were transferred to other foster families. They confirmed the facts of bullying during investigative experiments. They wrapped this, pretty cool, right? Wrapped around the neck. Who did this? Green. I slept soundly on the hard wooden bench. Then, quite suddenly, the bag of things and the loud explosions got out. After that, she kindly gave me some fresh bread and a piece of matra. At that time, when you were sleeping on the bench, you only ate bread and drank water. And how much bread did you eat? 1 loaf. He fell from a height of 20 meters. As a result of the explosion, he landed on concrete right next to protruding rebar. In Dnipro, a 35-year-old soldier was rescued. He miraculously survived after an enemy attack in the Dnipropetrovsk region. With numerous injuries, he was taken to the hospital. Thanks to the efforts of several teams of medics, the defender has a chance to walk again. He told Ola Pavlovska how he is recovering after the harrowing fall.
A plumber from Zakarpattia, he joined the army just 4 months ago. Mykhailo still can't believe he survived the explosion and the fall from a height. He, his comrade, and the driver were on their way to their positions in the Dnipropetrovsk region.
There was an impact not far away. We veered off the road and fell off the bridge. I don't even know. We fell from a height of 20 or 30 meters with the ATV.
We landed right on the concrete, recalls 35-year-old Mykhailo.
I turn around and there's a piece of rebar sticking out of me, a chunk like that. The ATV caught fire. There were munitions. My backpack was full, completely packed with ammunition. I was lying there and pulled myself away from the ATV because it was burning.
All 3 survived, although they sustained injuries. The driver, who was hurt the least, provided assistance. Mykhailo has fractures in his legs, spine, and ribs, as well as a head injury. In the hospital, the doctors are doing everything possible to help him survive and walk again.
He has already undergone 17 surgeries, and this is not the last one. The courage of our soldiers is shown not only on the front line, but here as well. The prognosis is absolutely positive. We can already see that he will not only walk, but also run.
Mykhailo still has more surgeries ahead of him. He hopes to recover and live to see victory so that he can finally start the family he dreams of. Ola Polispil, Alexander Kulish, Dnipro, TSN 1+1.
An enemy missile was destroyed by explosive ordnance experts in Rivne region. A local resident informed the police about a suspicious object found in a field that resembled a barrel. An investigative team, explosive ordnance experts, SBU officers, and prosecutors went to the scene. After examining the find, they realized it was the warhead of a cruise missile. The warhead contained nearly 350 kilograms of explosives that had not detonated. The dangerous find was loaded up and taken to a special site, where it was detonated in a controlled explosion. Police once again remind everyone not to approach suspicious objects and especially not to touch them. You must immediately call in the specialists. She was waiting for her son, who had gone missing and until the very end did not want to leave her home. In Nikopol, Dnipropetrovsk region, police evacuated an elderly woman who needed medical assistance. 76-year-old Mrs. Berda lived under shelling, hoping that her son, a soldier, would return home. The woman suffered a stroke and, due to health problems, fell and sustained burns. It was the neighbors who raised the alarm. Law enforcement officers first took Mrs. Berta to the hospital and then brought her to her daughter and granddaughter, who live in a safer city. Over the course of a week, the Angels also evacuated another woman and 3 men from Nikopol. 2 of them are unable to move on their own. Cockroaches, termites, and ants. They competed against each other. Which of them would complete the mission the fastest? However, speed alone is not enough. You need a quality connection, a reliable battery, and an experienced crew. The Open Kyiv Cup in technological sports among ground-based robotic complexes was held for the first time in Ukraine. Manufacturers, combat units, and training centers not only competed with each other for the title of the best. The main goal was to exchange experience and scale up the use of the most successful models for fighting the enemy on the front line, the most successful models for fighting the enemy on the line of contact. So, who became the best among the GRCs? Ihor Bondarenko knows.
This is how it might have looked judging by the condition of the robots. However, this is a competition of ground drones. 36 wheeled and tracked unmanned vehicles overtake each other and race across the rough terrain of the capital's park. The very first obstacle, a series of dug trenches, reveals the weak points among the participants. Small drones get stuck while the big ones don't notice anyone.
I got run over once, then pushed a second time. Now someone ran into me, but I somehow managed to stay on my wheels. In
the control center, pilots and navigators are at work. 34 teams are guiding ground robotic systems along the route. The crew's task is to find 12 checkpoints, photograph them, and do it as quickly as possible. Among the participants are K-2, Kharkiv, and the 3rd Assault, combat units with considerable experience working on the front line. And they are the clear favorites.
This is entertainment, just for fun. No, of course, as they say, I have the spirit like in competitions, but it's much easier than combat work. Much easier. At the very least, here you can't be hit by enemy weapons.
You can monitor the movement of ground robotic complexes along the route with the help of aerial drones. Another capability of the all-terrain vehicle Amphibia. Mr. Alexander is not just the driver of the all-terrain vehicle. He was the one who developed the route and created obstacles for the competition participants. The conditions are close to combat situations: snow, sand, mud, fallen trees, and trenches.
While they are drawing maps, we are manually changing the landscape.
The Buffalo robot is a heavyweight. It can transport hundreds of kilograms of cargo over dozens of kilometers. But its long wheelbase, own weight, and the pilot's inattentiveness force it to ask for help.
Everyone is placing bets on those who have already proven themselves in battle at the LBZ. And that's very, very interesting. Today, from a professional point of view, we will look at what actually delivers results. It's more resilient and durable.
The manufacturers of the Protector complex are also testing their drone in conditions close to combat. The ground robot stands out noticeably because of its size. Compared to the others, this machine isn't meant for breaking through the front line, but it has its own advantages.
Its mission isn't just logistics or evacuation. It can also serve as a kind of drone mothership for both FPV and large drones. We equip it with a catapult for launching wing-type drones, for example, or with a ramp for deploying small FPV drones, and for driving them, they are delivered to a safe zone at the position.
Currently, Ukrainian soldiers are using up to 20,000 ground robotic systems on the front line. Logistics, evacuation, fire support, mining, reconnaissance, ambush. Hundreds of Ukrainian companies are improving and developing new models of ground robotic systems.
We are far ahead. We have a huge range, and we also have a vast variety of different communications that we use. We have a unified system that connects all ground robotic systems into a single network. We are developing quite actively, but again, we know perfectly well that the enemy is not standing still either. They are constantly evolving, copying, implementing, and scaling up. That's why we must not slow down the pace here.
The Targan 200 wheeled vehicle proven on the front lines maintains its leading pace and finishes first in this competition. Team K-2 confirms its status as the favorite.
Experience, skill, a good machine. A good navigator. Overall, the team is great.
Among tracked drones, the fastest was the Termite, operated by the 3rd Army Corps. All the prize winners have been actively helping the Ukrainian military at the front for a year now. Ground robotic systems are operating and controlling the kill zone, which is expanding every year. That's why it's now impossible to do without robots on the line of contact. Ihor Bondarenko, Mykhailo Fedorov, TSN 1+.
The 12th comrade helped evacuate a wounded Ukrainian soldier. An incredible story was captured on video by the 92nd Separate Assault Brigade named after Ivan Serko. Their ground robotic system, which was heading out at night to retrieve the wounded, became hopelessly stuck in the soggy ground. The operator did everything he could, but the robot kept slipping and couldn't move. Suddenly, a pair of eyes lit up in the darkness. A cat approached the robot. A well-fed cat. He assessed the situation and with a loud meow called his fellow cats for help. Together, they pulled the robot out of the trap, allowing it to reach the evacuation point in time. The wounded person was saved. And we don't know the name of this whiskered hero, but we believe he deserves a reward. But this whiskered fellow is known all over the world. Ukrainian boxer Alexander Usyk has learned the name of his next opponent. It will be Rico Verhoeven, a kickboxer from the Netherlands. He is 36 years old and has been competing professionally since 2004. He is the current heavyweight champion of the Glory Federation. Ukrainian Alexander Usyk holds the championship belts according to the WBC, WBA, and IBF versions. The fight with the Dutchman will take place in the Egyptian city of Giza, right next to the legendary pyramids, on May 23rd of this year. At stake will be the WBC heavyweight title.